This is the son of the Shah, who was thrown out by the Ayatollah back in 1979. And he's been positioning himself to become the new government. Now, one awkward thing about Iran, they've been ruled by this theocracy for so many decades. There's really no Iranian opposition party that has any experience in governing. I mean, none of the people who would take over from the Iranian theocratic regime, they've never been presidents. They've never been legislators. They've never been judges. They've never been bureaucrats in a government. They come in with basically zero experience. And that's a problem that can lead to chaos. If you have a bunch of inept people, friends being chosen, that kind of thing, nepotistic practices. Now, this Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, the son of the former Shah, he's been positioning himself rather more aggressively in the last year, which seems to me like coordination with the Trump administration. Last year, for example, they set up basically a committee that recruited expertise from thought leaders all over the world on how to govern, how to be a legislator, how to be a judge, how would we pick people, how would we structure all this. So they've been training themselves to govern a nation. So they're holding this out as, listen, it's okay, there won't be chaos. We're prepped. We're prepped to do all this. I'll see if this is in English. Dear compatriots, as I emphasized in my message following the demise of Khomeini, any attempt to appoint a successor for him is predestined to fail. Well, they keep getting killed. Whoever is introduced, be it Moshtaba or Hassan, will lack legitimacy and will be considered an accomplice to the bloody record of this regime and its criminal leaders. Khomeini, the collapsing regime of the Islamic Republic holds no legitimacy. The only legitimate alternative to this regime is the transition system, the framework of which I have been communicating to you through the emergency phase booklet of the Iran Prosperity Project. That's the year-long plan I just mentioned. And its components will be introduced gradually to all former and current officials of the Islamic Republic whose hands are not stained with the blood of the nation. Respect the will of the people. I notice he's not offering everybody immunity. Hand over power immediately and without violence. Declare your allegiance to the nation's lion and sun revolution, back to the Shah, and contribute to Iran's stable and secure transition to a democratically elected national government. To the international community, I say, stand with the people of Iran, declare the Islamic Republic illegitimate, and recognize the transition system that I'll be in charge of as the representative of the nation's will. Victory is near. The Iranian nation will be liberated and will remember those who stood by its side during these times of hardship. Long live Iran, and that's the end. J.T. Alexander, who's a good follow on X, he writes, for the benefit of the historically impaired and geopolitically ignorant, I've decided to compile a list of every act of war Iran has perpetrated against the USA between 1979 and Election Day 2016. Now, one of the conversation points between myself and Harrison Smith on the Alex Jones network last night was he was characterizing what was going on as American aggression. And of course, in a sense, that is. I mean, we lit the fuse on this week's conflict. My take on it is rather different, though, that, in fact, we've been fighting with Iran for decades. I mean, I'm old enough. I remember when the hostages were taken in 1979, when the Shah was overthrown, and during the Jimmy Carter regime, of course. So from my perspective, we've been in a fist fight or worse with Iran for decades. And J.T. Alexander went through and collected a bunch of these, only up through 2016. So he's not including anything since 2016, but of course, obviously stuff has been happening. So 1979, Tehran U.S. Embassy seized 52 Americans, held them hostage for 444 days. 1983, the Beirut, sorry. It's hard to talk sometimes. Beirut bombing, 17 Americans killed. Then there was another bombing a few months later, 1983, the big one, Marine barracks truck bombing, 241 U.S. Marines killed while they were sleeping. 1984, Beirut again, embassy bomb, 2 Americans killed. For a decade, in the 80s, Lebanon, Hezbollah, kidnapping, murders of U.S. citizens, also military personnel. And at least one general was kidnapped and murdered. American general. He wasn't carrying a gun. I remember reading it about it at the time, and I was astonished. He was among hostiles, and he didn't even have a pistol on him. So that was a bad plan. Also in the 80s, the Persian Gulf, attacks on U.S. flag tankers, mining waters, open waters. 1996, Dhahran, Saudi Arabia, the Khobar Towers truck bombing, 19 killed. 2001, Afghanistan, Iranian troops host Taliban envoys, provide them with weapons and intelligence on U.S. movements, border access. 2005 to 2011, Iraq. In Iraq, Iranian special forces supplied EFPs. These are directed explosive weapons used for roadside bombs, IED explosives, very powerful, burns right through armor. 1,526 attacks, killed 196 U.S. troops, wounded 861. At the peak, killing and wounding 60 to 200 per month in 2007, 2008. 2003 to 2011, Iraq, again, Iranian-backed militias, indirect fire, rockets, mortars, IEDs, 603 U.S. deaths. 2006 to 2016, Afghanistan, Iranian forces shipped arms, training, funding to the Taliban. 2007, in Iraq, Iranian forces, Iranian-backed militia assault a U.S. center, 5 soldiers killed. 2011, Washington, D.C., Iranian-backed forces try to blow up a restaurant and assassinate a Saudi ambassador in Washington, D.C. It's foiled. 2011, 2013, Iranian-backed forces, DDoS attack on 46 banks, tens of millions of U.S. dollars in costs incurred as a result. 2013, Rye, New York, Iranian hackers accessed I don't know what this is, a damn SCADA system. February 2014, Las Vegas, Nevada, Iranian destructive malware wiped Las Vegas Sands Corp computers, 40 million in damages. January 2016, Farsi Island, Persian Gulf, Iranian Navy seized 2 U.S. riverine boats, detained 10 sailors for 16 hours. This was during Obama. October 9th to 15th, 2016, Red Sea off Yemen, Iran enabled Houthi cruise missile attack on the USS Mason. We've been at war with these people for quite a long time, and Trump has just decided, I've had enough. And I mentioned I was on my buddy Joe Neerman's show last night for a little bit. This is his account on X, goes by Good Logic. He writes, I've been asked why I give Trump latitude on the Iranian military engagement. Here's why. The trust is because Trump got in and got out of Iran last summer, bombing the nuclear facility, without loss of a single American life. The trust is because Trump killed Soleimani and Baghdadi, finishing ISIS without loss of a single American. The trust is because Trump got Maduro without losing a single American. The trust is because there are over a dozen foreign nations who said, Trump got us out of X war, again, without loss of a single American. The trust is because of the Abraham Accords. The trust is because he got India to drop their tariffs. The trust is because he said, F you, Paris Accords, and F trying to bribe Iran not to destroy the world. The trust is because he made the EU start paying their share in NATO. The trust is because he stopped contributing billions to the Ukraine war. The trust is because he brought $18 trillion in foreign investments in 1 year into the U.S., compared to Biden bringing $1 trillion in 4 years. The trust is because he made Americans proud to join the military and serve. We're meeting all our recruitment goals, plus. The trust is because he reinvigorated a healthy sense of nationalism in a way we haven't seen in decades. The list goes on and on. After all these wins, in year 6 of him serving as our commander-in-chief, this is the very first time he's come out and said, this is important enough that we need to risk American lives, and unfortunately, some may die. He's never done that before. We cannot have access to the classified intel he has, obviously. And as a general rule, I assume that my government is lying to me and paid by the military-industrial complex to sell me on war. But with all his blood-free international wins, this is the guy I trust when he says the intel dictates we make this move now. That trust is not forever. It's a pretty short leash by military engagement standards. I pray we don't see American boots on the ground inside Iran, that we see no more American deaths. I also recognize it's political suicide to go into election season this summer in a hot war. This better be a distant memory in the fall. But if anybody has earned our trust by proving that he gets win after win internationally while being exceedingly prudent in risking American lives, President Trump is that man. I think that's a pretty compelling argument. Now, nobody's perfect. Trump's not perfect either, but that's a long list of international successes.